I'm sorry, I'm a bit arrogant. We have a top manager.
Let me talk.
I think I'm a special one.
Time to go! Let me talk.
Everywhere you go, there's meat pies, and I'm surprised that Americans haven't embraced this, because this could be like the greatest thing on earth.
You are now listening to the Hat Trick with the Meat Pies podcast, your podcast for most things footy and few things pie. This is Nico, your host today for this very special Hat Trick episode. You know the drill by now. 3 most impactful, memorable matches that will stick with you like perfectly cooked pasta until you hang up the boots. Our guest today, Paulinho, most recently known as Manu. Very excited to learn more about Paul's footy journey. Paul, you grew up in a footy household, did you not?
Oh, big time footy household. By the way, hey, Nico. Nico's joining us from beautiful Nevada City. He's fresh off a fresh meat pie for dinner. I'm off some boxed mac and cheese, so this is gonna go great. But
We are not the same.
not alike. Yeah, big footy household. My mom actually taught my dad how to play soccer because she grew up playing it. My dad never played it through when he was an adult. And so my mom actually taught him how to play in Sunday league games and stuff.
Okay, I was gonna say she taught him how to kick a ball.
No. No, so he could probably toe punt pretty accurately, you know. I think she just introduced him to actually playing, maybe some of the strategy involved, because I remember she told us once that she was like, "Oh well, our kids are definitely gonna play soccer, so you have to know how to play."
I'm 100%. That's I have 3 or 2 or 3 musts for my kid whenever I have one. It's got to play an instrument, got to play soccer, and I don't know, really only 2, I guess. But
that's good. That's a good, well-rounded experience.
Some kind of sport, some kind of creativity. I'm obviously gonna advocate for soccer, but you know, I played soccer. My dad was completely foreign to my dad, so maybe my son will, or my daughter will, want to play lacrosse. I'm gonna be like, you're on your own. I have no idea what's going on here.
God, lacrosse. If my child ends up playing lacrosse, I will be supportive, but I'll be internally a little disappointed. You know,
Internally ill.
Yeah, a little bit ill. But yeah, I grew up in a big footy household. Honestly, a big sports household in general. Me and my brother played every sport under the sun growing up. And eventually we kind of narrowed it down to soccer and basketball as our biggest ones. But my dad, he didn't know how to play soccer apparently, but he also played every sport under the sun until into his 30s, 40s, whatever. When he gets a chance, he'll go play some Sunday league down at the Salmon Bay play field.
Let's go.
But yeah, we love it in the Van Zandt household, a bit of footy. One of my 3 most important matches was experienced at the Van Zandt household, but we'll get into that.
Oh, that's a good segue here. Is that number 1, 2, or 3?
So I'm not sure. Actually, I think I probably could rank these. I'll start with number 1, which is by far the most impactful memory. None of them are Manchester United memories, actually, which is interesting.
Shocking.
There might be an honorable mention. I'll mention United in the honorable mentions, but the first
where his heart truly lies now.
Yeah, with the Dutch national team. The first and the most impactful game of my entire life is the 2010 World Cup final between the Netherlands and Spain. I remember watching that I think it was that tournament. It might have been the one before. I think it was 2010. No, it was definitely 2010. During the day, my dad set up our VCR to record every single game And I'm talking like the group stage, the knockouts, literally every game we had like it on a little tape, and then we would reset it and like record the next day. And so that World Cup, we watched every match, and we got to see the Dutch run up to the final. I've been like a lifelong supporter of the Dutch national team. And so this was a crazy moment. There were some unreal goals that tournament. I actually watched the highlights of that game in preparation for this podcast. And like, as I was watching the highlights, like this game was played like 12 years ago. Like I was like getting stressed. Like I was
You remember
like
exactly where you were from kickoff until final whistle.
Yeah, literally. I remember watching it at our house, the four of us, and I remember clear as day the Casillas save on the Robin one-on-one. I remember clear as day the De Jong chest kick. That was a yellow card instead of a red, which is absolutely heinous.
Bit of a high
so
boot
much,
there, wasn't it?
A bit. Something I didn't remember that watching the highlights was crazy is Sergio Ramos playing right back.
Playing right back. I actually noticed that too. Well, I mean, when you think about it, it's Xabi Alonso and Sergi Busquets in the holding positions. But yeah, he also looked crazy young. I must confess, I watched the highlights too, because as you all know, Paul is Mr. Dutchman. I am Mr. Spanishman. So it was my people versus his people, and an absolutely wonderful trip down memory lane. Maybe not as much for Paul, but yeah. Also, Iniesta starting on the right wing, super interesting. And then I think like it was Villa up top and Pedro on the left.
Mm-hmm.
And who was the 10? Who am I forgetting? Xavi.
Xavi. And then later in the game, Fabregas came on. I was looking at the starting lineups for that game, watching the highlights, and I was like, we had no business winning that game. Your guys' lineup was pretty much like the team of the year.
Well, so that Spain team was like the invincible, like, you're not going to beat us team. And then, I mean, Netherlands had probably, I mean, Spain was, from my memory, correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but to my memory, like Spain was kind of dominating most of the match, but the Netherlands had the better chances. Robin one-on-one, and then the other time when Robin tried to dribble around Casillas and he was able to snatch it. Those are probably the two best chances of the game.
They were close. I mean, there was actually some great goalkeeping on both sides in that match. I just remember so fondly, like just like the players in it. And when we lost, it was obviously like everyone in our house is like crying. I remember like watching Ruud Gullit give like the post match, and he was just like bawling his eyes out. And I for like the longest time, like I'm talking years, like I was so convinced Iniesta was offsides, just because like I needed to hang on to something that like, and he just was so onside, like it's not even close.
I don't know. Maybe there's a case for VAR there. Are we doing some conspiracy theory right now?
If you asked me that question like a couple of years ago, I would have said, yeah, let's get into it. But it's not even close. Like he's like a whole person's length onside. And I just remember that game to me epitomizes like so much of what is great and like painful about soccer. Like I feel like, not that I'm like taking lessons from all of this stuff, but like there's so much to take away from these important games in our life. And that one, I feel like taught me so much about like success and failure, and how they aren't necessarily mutually exclusive things. Like another match actually that I'm going to talk about later teaches a very similar lesson, where like the Dutch have never won a World Cup. They've won 1 Euros. I mean, you think about like the pedigree of that nation in terms of soccer, and to have one major championship is insane. That
Well, I
was one
believe-
of
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say I believe that was Spain's first World Cup victory as well,
really
which
that's
is
surprising.
interesting. Yeah. Let me fact check that real quick, but continue.
Well, that World Cup began the three-peat, right? Or that was the middle of it, where like they won the Euros 2 years ago, they won the World Cup, and then they won the next Euros as well. And then the next World Cup was 2014.
2014, which they crashed out of.
Yeah. Which was also it is probably going to be an honorable mention of mine, is like watching that Van Persie header against Spain just like lifted me so much, because it's just been like so much like resentment building.
Dutchman.
If only he had a celebration to match. But yeah, that World Cup final game just like is like the biggest occasion. I mean, you even watch the highlights. Maybe it's because I feel so close to the match, but like when you watch the highlights, it feels like a World Cup final. Like everyone's anxious, like the whole stadium is buzzing. And that, honestly, that 2010 World Cup is like one of the best ever.
I was gonna say,
obviously, I
everything
seen
about
like
it.
a bunch.
The
everything
Jabberwocky,
about it.
the Waka Waka, just
The vuvuzelas.
Yeah, everything.
It's just it was so good, and it was so poised for like this incredible finish, and it got one. Just not the way I would have liked. But yeah, that is far and away the most impactful game I've ever witnessed, much less been a part of. Like obviously the games
I
I'm
can
playing
imagine.
in like high school soccer are like
Well, it sounds
nothing.
like-
and then
Right. I was gonna say, it sounds like this really impacted you. You know, we say memorable for this edition of this hat trick episode, but it sounds like you really learned quite a few life lessons from it as well. At a
Dude,
young
it's
age,
just-
a young Paul just being absolutely impacted by the first taste of true defeat.
it's just like so emotional. Like you don't think of sports as like inherently like personally emotional, but then something like this happens and you're like, wow. Like I look back on that as like one of the more emotional times of like my childhood. I don't know. I don't is that true? Probably
You
not.
get so,
But it's
I mean,
so
that's why sports are so beautiful, because you get so emotionally invested in them, and then when the unthinkable happens, it's like the biggest high you've ever experienced. And when you get heartbroken, it's like your wife just left you. It's like heartbreak.
yeah, literally, like, oh my God. But I actually don't like, despite the loss and despite like maybe like not like the result not going our way in that game all those years ago, I look back on it like so fond. Like that is such a happy memory in my head, just because it's associated with something I love so much. Like even though we lost that game, and it's like painful to watch the highlights, when I think about it, I'm like, that's exciting. Like that's what sport should be, you know?
Well, I applaud you for actually watching those highlights, because I mean, I don't think I've ever watched highlights of a final like that my team has lost. 2018 Champions League final, haven't touched it. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the only meaningful final I guess it would be 2016 Golden State Warriors. That was pretty tough. Haven't touched it since. But yeah, my teams aren't really playing the finals besides those two. So
my
continue.
teams only win finals. No, I mean it's been so long that it's like I kind of have to. You can't really avoid them, and it's like the like storybook ending to one of the most memorable World Cups of all time. It's like the World Cup isn't just like, I don't know. I think the World Cup isn't just like the Super Bowl, where it's like you play it every year and then the next year it's like, okay, let's start over and go again. It's so much bigger than that, and so much more, it feels so much more important.
Here's a crazy stat. Only 8 countries have ever won the World Cup.
Do you have the countries named in front of you? Wait,
dude,
don't look them up. Don't look them up.
Yeah, see if we can name them.
Spain, Germany.
Are we counting West Germany and Germany, or just
I think if we say Germany, it should count
okay?
because I don't know if we're gonna be able to get all.
I'm not for sure. Spain,
You better not be
Germany,
looking at.
Brazil,
Yeah, Brazil's won a couple. I swear.
France. We know France.
Yeah,
Italy.
yeah.
That's 4.
So
France,
there's 4
Italy.
more.
Yeah, who else in our lifetime has won? Okay, sorry, we have Spain, Brazil, Germany.
I swear Maradona won one for Argentina. No,
Let's put a half finger for that. I can't verify.
because I don't know, maybe not.
Italy. Italy is 5, so that's 5.5.
I swear Italy was part of the 4. Spain, Germany, France, Italy,
Brazil.
Yeah. So that's 5, 5.5.
5.5.
It's kind of hard. Has England
really
ever
hard.
won one?
No, there's no way.
There's no way.
I can't imagine what other teams may have.
I don't think an African country has ever won it.
No.
I don't think has any other South American teams won it?
Argentina must have won it with Maradona.
Well, I feel like that's one of the biggest like difference or like criticisms between him and Messi is like Messi's never won a World Cup. Maybe that's just a criticism of Messi in general. For some reason in my head, I think Maradona's won it. I could be totally wrong though. I feel like the rest of the teams.
I'm looking it up.
No, just give us like another minute. I feel like the rest of the teams have to be in Europe. Right?
Yeah. No, I agree with you there.
No way Belgium's won it before.
2018 France, 2014 Germany, 2010 Spain, 2006 Italy, 2002
Brazil, right?
Brazil, I believe. 98. See, this is officially past me and Paul's existence on this.
Okay, well that gives me some solace. Is we know all of them while we've been alive. I swear either Italy or Brazil won in the 94 was the USA World Cup. I looked that up. I don't know who won. God, we are so embarrassing right now.
I feel like Brazil wins it like all of the years that I'm not alive for, honestly. Like that's just in my brain. I'm like Brazil always wins the World Cup.
Yeah, in my brain before like 1996, like Brazil just won every single World Cup.
It's got to be another South American team. I feel like randomly like Paraguay won it, or like Uruguay maybe.
Uruguay, maybe Colombia. I don't know if they won
Colombia, maybe.
We're literally just guessing.
We're just guessing.
Okay,
I think it's time.
You can look it up.
Okay. France, Germany, Spain. 2006 was Germany, right? Of course. Wait. Oh, wait. We missed.
Was Italy?
Sorry. No, I'm looking at the wrong. Hold up. Sorry. I'm looking at a bad list.
Gotta get the good info.
Sorry. Okay. 2006 Italy, 2002 Brazil. Yep. 1998 France again. 1994 Brazil. 1990 Germany. 86 was Argentina with Maradona. Okay. 82 Italy. 78 Argentina over the Netherlands. 74 Germany over the Netherlands. 70 is Brazil. So I guess England did win the World Cup in 1966 over West Germany. Brazil, Germany, Uruguay, Italy.
I'm counting that as you getting that.
Italy, Uruguay. Okay, so we really didn't miss much. Just Uruguay and England were the two that we were kind of.
If you count like every single name that came out of our mouth as a guess, then we got all 8.
We got all 8, and to be fair, none of the ones that we weren't absolutely sure on were before 1970, so barely counts. But yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Plastic trophy.
That's not bad. But yeah, I mean, so I think that 2010 World Cup was like the first time I really followed professional soccer. I was very into like American sports, or sports that were big in the US growing up, in my young ages. And then I think that was kind of a turning point for me. Like having a lot of family in Spain, and then just I remember receiving, like, being on the phone with my grandma and talking to them, and they were just going nuts. And what's interesting for my family, because like there is a bit of a rivalry between like the Basque Country and then like the actual, like, the rest of Spain. And
Yeah.
I've always had this fantasy in my head, like ever since I started playing FIFA. I always tried to create like the Basque national team on FIFA, but I've always had this fantasy of like, what would that team look like? And I'm maybe it's not quite as good as it used to be, but like 5 years ago, Xabi Alonso, Javi Martinez, Aspilicueta, you can kind of like push some boundaries with like Griezmann and some of the French Basques. But yeah, I don't know. I just always had this like really cool idea of like will the Basque national team form again? Because I just think that'd be absolutely electric. But anyways, I digress.
That would be sick. Wait, one thing, you mentioned that like you like really started following like international soccer after this. I feel like I kind of agree. Like as a kid, I liked sports a lot, but like I was a little too young to like independently follow it, right? I feel like this tournament was one of the first times I was like independently very invested and like following what was going on. Cause like we couldn't just go on our phones and look up the score. Like,
and it's a great point. And it reminds me of something I saw Taylor Twellman tweet the other day after the US qualified for the World Cup. And he was essentially just like talking about not just the impact that this World Cup is going to have on popularity of the sport in the United States, but what 2026 is going to be like. Because we think of the 2010 World Cup as like a formative, sports event in our lifetime, because it like really turned us into like avid fans essentially. But
yeah,
we didn't have phones. We weren't really on the internet then. We were 12 years old, but people in general weren't really like on the internet then. And the next World Cup is going to absolutely dominate Twitter. And the reach that we have to your just average fan, or to your person who's averagely interested in the sport, is it's going to be phenomenal. And he was just basically saying like, this is such a good opportunity for the sport to grow in the United States. And I mean, can't help but think he's right. Over the next 4 years, with this like turning of our competitiveness in these tournaments to like, it's gonna absolutely explode in the States. And I'm very excited to like be a part of that and witness that. But yeah, anyway,
I totally agree.
Let's get into most formative game number 2. Is it, to my knowledge, it is another Dutch football experience?
It is actually not. There are that's going to be the third one. You're not wrong. But I thought of one in the meantime that was an insane, one of the most, like, I tried to make all of these like kind of unique. Like I could say like another, like watching Holland in the 2014 World Cup, but I want to like make all these fairly unique, and that's something I like about all 3 stories, is they have their own like special little moments. This one is actually, I say it's so unique, it's another World Cup final. It is in 2018. I was in Europe for the 2018 World Cup that summer. I was traveling around by myself before doing a study abroad in Amsterdam, which we'll get into later. And as a part of that, like I was watching a bunch of games. Every once in a while, I would watch them out at the pub. I think I got there like as the knockout started. And so
I actually remember this time very well. We were maybe sophomores. We were going between sophomore year and junior year in college, and definitely remember exactly where I was for a lot of these games. But yeah, it must have been amazing to be in Amsterdam for this.
Yeah, well, so the World Cup barely, like a couple days before my program started was the World Cup final, like literally like 2 days before the program. So I could have gone to Amsterdam to watch it, but I was planning this trip. The way I planned the trip was I started in Munich, and then I spent a couple days there, and then I went to like Prague and Vienna, and I went somewhere else that I can't remember. But I kind of went to a couple different countries in Europe, and then there was like a 3-day gap before when that part of the trip ended and my study abroad began. And I lined it up so that 3 days was during the World Cup final. So what I told myself when it started is I was like, okay, I'm going to go to whatever country is in the final. I was like assuming it was going to be a European country. I was like, I'm going to go to, like, let's say Italy makes it they weren't in the World Cup, but like, let's say France makes it to the final. They did. I would be like, oh, I'm going to go to France.
I love this story. Yeah.
So the final ends up being France, Croatia on like this crazy run. Their team was unreal, and they were just Luka Modric like playing out of his mind. And so I knew it was France, Croatia. So that gave me two options. I was like, okay, I could either go to France or I could go to Croatia. I look into all this stuff for France. I was like, I'm going to go to Nice. I'm going to go to like the south of France, like on the coast. I'm going to go and watch this game there, and it's going to be unreal. The prices that I would have paid to like stay there and fly there was just so otherworldly.
It was also in France, was it not?
I don't remember where the final was. If it was in France, I would have probably gone to Paris.
Sorry, it was in Russia.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say,
thinking of the Euro. I'm thinking of the Euro final.
If it was in France, I probably would have gone to it regardless, even if they weren't in the final.
Well, you didn't want to go to Moscow?
I mean, I could have made the trip.
I heard tickets are pretty cheap right now.
Anyways, I was gonna go to France, and the prices were just way too expensive. Like staying there for like, it was like 2 or 3 days, I would have spent like $1,500 getting there, staying there, leaving. And I was just like, okay, that's not happening. I went for like 2.5 months on like something like an $8,000 budget. And so I was not spending all. Yeah, I was cutting
pennies.
And in an effort to do that, I was like, I'm going to take a bus to Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, and I'm going to go watch this game there. Like, that's going to be awesome. So I got on this bus. I sit next to the
scenes if they win.
Exactly. And so I get on this bus, and I sit next to this nun we bust through like 4 different Slavic countries, and
just you and the nun.
Yeah, the bus is packed, but it's really hot, and the nun is like waving this fan the whole time. And then our bus driver, not because we have to stop, like he chooses to stop the bus like 4 times just for a cigarette break.
Yeah,
and
it's common courtesy.
And I can't remember if I'm making this up or not, but like I swear the nun smoked a cigarette with him. Like I cannot confirm if that's true, but like I swear I remember that happening.
Did you make conversation with her? Did you
I don't think she spoke English.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think most of those people spoke English. Most of the people in Croatia didn't speak English.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But I get there, I get to my hostel. The game is the next day, and so my plan is stay there overnight, just like grab a burger, And then the next day I'm gonna like I walk around in the morning to like see what the town's about. And then I like go scout out like the main town square because I'm like, I'm gonna go to like the viewing party for this game. And so I scout out the main town square. They have this massive screen up. I go there like an hour and a half early. Everyone's like drinking beers, just like in the street, like nobody cares. And that is through. I was like in the middle of the crowd, like not up at the front, but like not at the back, like kind of in the middle. That is like one of the most electric atmospheres I've ever been in. Croatia went down first, and then Perisic scored an equalizer with the left. And when I say like this town square erupted, like everyone threw anything they had in their hands. They just chucked it in the air. Like I was just like hugging strangers. Like everyone was just going ballistic. They were like setting off.
Were you were repping Croatia? Were you not?
Oh, I didn't have like a shirt on or anything, but I was big supporting Croatia. I mean, if I didn't, like, I probably wouldn't be here to tell the tale. But
same colors on the flags too. It's
yeah, it's easy enough. And like these guys, like, literally, I kid you not, 10 feet to my left, they were all like wearing ski masks. They're like hooligans, and they would just literally like light a firework and just run. They would just all run in a separate direction. And if you weren't if like you had to pay attention, because like if you see them running, like you kind of got to run too, because there's like effectively like a bomb, like a little bomb that's going to go off like 10 feet to your left.
That's some top shit housery right there.
It is. And they were setting off fireworks literally in the crowd, Nico. It's like thousands of people. There's like a huge crowd. They're just setting off fireworks and like flares. Like everyone has flares. It is the most passionate electric environment I've ever been a part of. It was amazing.
Maybe unsafe too.
Oh, so unsafe, but that's what made it so fun.
Unfortunately,
Croatia ended up losing that game, even though Modric won player of the tournament, later went on to win Ballon d'Or that year. And so I was kind of sad they lost, obviously, because it would have been fun for them to win. But additionally, I was like, oh, I'm in Croatia. Like, it would have been so cool if they won. Everyone would be celebrating. So I go back to the hostel. I don't want to spend too much time. I get out of the town square pretty quick because I'm like, I don't know if it's going to get violent. Like, there were a couple people like throwing some chairs and stuff. And I was like, I don't want this to like turn ugly. I'm going to get out of here. I go back to the hostel. It gets to nighttime. I'm hearing a lot of commotion and stuff outside the whole time. And so I have to go get some dinner. And so I go out and I walk to the park. I start walking around the town square, and there are just like people drinking, people setting off big fireworks, like a huge party. And if you just like dropped me into that night without any context of what happened in the game, like you would have thought they won. And that was one of the most amazing things to me, is like they were celebrating. Like, I was talking to people and they were like, this is the closest we've ever been to anything like this. Like, we are all so happy that we went on this journey and we made it this far, and we're so proud of the team. Like, we can't do anything but celebrate.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I certainly remember that being the sentiment, like when they were going through it. It was just like so crazy, unexpected. And at that point, you really just got to celebrate the journey. Like, that was an incredible run by Croatia. I'm trying to pull up the like their route to the final, but I'm pretty sure they two penalties to Denmark in the round of 16, penalties over Russia in the quarterfinal, 2-1 over England in extra time. So they grinded for this.
The story was so good. And I was like talking to people in the streets and in line for food and stuff, and they were just like so happy about everything, which was just amazing. Like, it's so amazing. And it just like made that whole experience like so wholesome. And like, while it was incredibly fun, it also, like, looking back on it, it's like wow, I'm so glad I was there, because
Man,
it's exactly the opposite of what you think would happen when a team loses a World Cup final. It's like you think they'd be angry, you think there'd be like destruction and like a lot of like negativity. Like imagine if England, like after England lost the Euros, like so much hate and like
it was also
abuse.
yeah. I think there was some solace in the final because like I mean Croatia absolutely made it a match, but like in the end, like that France team was just like there's no denying it, and like
Yeah.
I think it was France 2-1 after Croatia leveled it, and then they went up 3-1. And then they went up 4-1. And then at that point it was just like, okay, like this France team is like the best team. And there was some
Yeah.
solace in just like knowing that like, okay, we weren't the best team, but like we made it to the final, and like that is something to celebrate.
Yeah. And I mean, when you factor in like the expectations they had for that whole experience, like
Right.
you
Bit
just
like
you cannot celebrate.
bit like the 2022 Cincinnati Bengals, is it not? Maybe a
You
little
know,
bit.
that's actually a pretty damn good comparison.
Yeah, I know Bengals fans are still pretty distraught not to have won. Especially, I mean, I think they had probably a better shot in the Super Bowl of winning that game.
Yeah.
Than Croatia did in this final. But similar story. Like, you know, when you're not supposed to be there, everything just feels a little different. Maybe it's a little bit more to Spurs versus Liverpool in that Champions League final in 2018. But
yeah, that's true.
That's not a wrap. That's not a rabbit hole.
As we mentioned, we're not revisiting that moment. Actually, we're putting that on pause.
That is not a rabbit hole we're going down at this moment. Yeah, I mean, I am so jealous. I still haven't been to a professional like European match in Europe. It's been on my bucket list for so long now to like go to a game in Europe or just like be in Europe when there's like an important match like that. And I'm just incredibly jealous that you've had that experience in the World Cup final of all matches. But it sounds like you've done it a couple times now. I don't know if you've anything more to share about that Croatia experience if you want to get into your next match.
I'll just say, like, yeah, it was incredible. It's definitely like the most positive I've ever experienced, and it like a soccer game, and it felt, one of the reasons it was so fun and so great is like it felt so real. It's like it's so easy to watch something, especially like a World Cup final like France Croatia. I don't have a horse in that race. I would just be watching it, obviously, because it's a World Cup final and like I want to watch it, but like I wouldn't really care who wins. When I was there and like seeing everyone around me, just like seeing the scenes, and like before the game, it's like they threw this, God, it had to be like 500-foot long Croatian flag over our heads, and everyone's just like pounding on it and like tugging on it, and like they reveal it, and then like the ball kicks off, and it's just like just being there and experiencing it right. How they experience it is just a new level, and it just gives you so much more appreciation for what's actually happening, because you see the people that it's happening to, and like it's corny, but it's like the game isn't anything without fans, and like that's something that I've really like resonate with after having been through that, is like these fans like made this like a new level of awesome.
Yeah, I mean, certainly where you get like the passion from, and just like the weight, like yes, every player goes through their own personal journey, and every match, every final means so much to them, but like a fan gets to experience their country being in the final of the World Cup once in their lifetime.
Yeah, and maybe
if that, unless you're from one of those greedy,
unless you're Brazil,
unless Germany, you're Brazilian,
Italy,
yeah, one of those bastard countries, then it's like a regular Tuesday afternoon for you. But yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. That's just absolutely what makes the sport so beautiful, and really what has me just like itching to get there. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned on this same trip, it sounds like studying abroad in Amsterdam, you had the privilege of attending a match at the Johan Cruyff Stadium. Did you not?
I did indeed. Probably just over a month later. So I had been in Amsterdam for a little bit. I was immersing. I bought myself a bike, like a cheap bike off Facebook Marketplace for like $50 or something. Dude, there's nothing better than riding a bike around Amsterdam. Like you feel like such a free man.
Oh my God.
So, so one of my buddies and I, the only other guy on the trip actually, Sam, we figured out there's an Ajax game like in like 5 days, and we're like, dude, we gotta go. Like, I wasn't sure if they were playing at the time.
Stretching the budget, gotta make it to the match.
Dude, we gotta make it. And one of my friends, actually, I don't know if you remember Eldon. He was like a friend of mine, like freshman, sophomore year of college.
Yeah, I remember him.
Really cool guy. He ended up being in Amsterdam at the time. He hit me up because he had seen pictures and stuff, and he was like, yo, I'm gonna be there. Like, and I was like, okay, sweet. Like, dude, we're going to an Ajax game. Like, you gotta come. And he bought tickets as well. And
how much do you remember how much those tickets were?
They weren't expensive. They were probably like $30.
Okay. It's not bad at all.
Maybe a little more. Maybe like 40. I don't really remember, but I remember not having a question that I was going to buy them.
Yeah.
It was just like a regular.
You're not giving up your bed in the hotel to attend this match.
Not at all. It was just like a regular league game. I think I looked up the score actually, like, because I like went back in my snap memories to see what exact day it was, and then I like researched the game. And they played a team called Heracles, and there wasn't a ton. Honestly, the match was like kind of boring. One thing I remember like vividly is Heracles' goal was like a screamer. Like this guy scored from like way outside the box, and it went off.
I'm pretty sure the U.S. men's national team has a couple of lads on Heracles now. Do they not?
I don't know. I didn't know that team even existed at the time.
Right. Okay. We'll continue.
So we got like the full like match day experience. It was really interesting. I think this is the case in a lot of stadiums in Europe. But it is not. Like in America, you can just like walk in any entry door and just like walk around the whole circumference of the stadium and find your seat. In Europe, at least at Johan Cruyff Arena, I think in other European stadiums, there are specific entries that you have to go in. Maybe it's to like help the ticketing process and like people get into the stadium, but you can't like walk the circumference of the stadium on the inside. You have to like go in specific doors. But going like this is, I mean, it's a little annoying, but to me, I was like, I couldn't care less. Like, I just want to get in there. I want to get in my seat. I want to see kickoff. It's just like the whole experience of match day was so cool. And something I'll never forget. The stadium on the inside is beautiful. It's like this very like right angled quadrilateral roof, and it kind of matches the pitch, and the whole stadium is just like very vertical. You don't feel, I was like way up at the top. You don't feel like particularly close, but you can easily see what's going on. I'm kind of surprised more people aren't injured, like falling down at stadiums. Cause like when I was walking up those stairs, I was like, dude, this is like
steep.
Really steep.
Really steep.
Like, and there's no barrier. There's nothing. Like,
I mean, it happens all the time. We just don't hear about it as much as we probably should.
You're probably right. But yeah, this is my third most important match, just because like the whole European match day experience was amazing. This is the only match I've ever been to in Europe, and I feel very fortunate to have been to any, because it's something that's been on my bucket list for a super long time, and luckily enough, I was able to go do it.
Were there any level fights that we saw most recently in Las Vegas, or
so?
No kind of away fan behavior like that.
I'm not sure if that was away fan behavior or home fan behavior, honestly.
Right.
There was no violence or anything. They ended up drawing the game. I don't actually remember like the leveling goal. I just remember the Heracles goal.
Right.
But
And sorry, to complete that thought from earlier, it is Luca de la Torre
down
on Heracles. Bro, he's a midfielder, U.S. national team. He just started for us against Costa Rica or against Panama. He played full 90, and then he played 45 against. He played second half versus Costa Rica. Anyways, continue.
What position did he play?
Fun fact. I think he's a center mid. He might drift out to the wing sometimes.
He has a center mid-esque name.
Luca de la Torre. Yeah, he played on the left side of our midfield against Panama, so maybe an attacking midfielder. I don't really know. I barely watched him play, but seen the name. I've heard he's a quality player, but so you remember what was it, like a outside the box, like half volley upper V, or was it like
it was, I think it was off the ground, but it was like a bang. Like I remember, like I wasn't like, I was rooting for Ajax obviously, but when that goal went in, I remember me and my buddy standing up and being like, oh, like that was if Ajax had scored that, like I would have gone nuts. Like
somebody was falling off
a really
the
good goal. Yeah, dude, I would have been leaping off those stairs. Like it was a crazy goal.
Damn.
I want to see if I can find the highlights later because I'd love to see it back in broadcast and see how it looks there. But just being able to like have the European match day experience, something very foreign to us, was really, really fun. Like taking the train there and back. There were some dudes on the train that were so hammered and they were like trying to teach us some Dutch and they were like literally barely able to talk.
I love that. And they're all going to work. They're all going to work the next day.
Yeah, quite literally. Like, I feel like it might have been a weekend. I don't know. It might have been a weekend game. I feel like I remember being during the day. And so either way, the stadium was packed. Like the attendance was like really high. And just the whole experience of like being in a foreign country, but like being able to go to a soccer game where it's like, I know exactly what's happening. I know like everything about it.
Right.
And kind of connecting in that way was extremely cool. Also, Ajax is like a very, very cool club. Like I love supporting them as like, kind of like my club away from home, if you will. So that's very fun. It's something I hope. I didn't know you've never been to a match. I just assumed you've been to like at least a Bilbao match. You got to make that your first one.
We'll see. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I think it's just going to depend on, because you don't make it to Europe too often anymore. So it's just going to be convenient in terms of like when I'm there, what city I'm in. I actually had a really good friend. I was either thinking it's got to be a Bilbao or a Spurs match, but one of my buddies from home here, who's a massive Spurs supporter with me, he played on like the Spurs academy team with me growing up. He went to London most recently, like 2 weeks ago. I think it was for the West Ham game. I haven't told this to the boys on the pod yet, but he bought a resale StubHub ticket for like 2 tickets for like $150 for him. And I think he was there with his girlfriend, may have just been one of his other buddies. But they bought StubHub resale tickets and at the gates and just had the most miserable experience. And he had to like watch from a pub, even though he paid $150 for these tickets.
Wait,
to see.
Why'd they not get in?
I don't know. Apparently they have some policy of
against resale?
Against resale, maybe specifically on StubHub. I don't know exactly. But he went to London, bought tickets. He was like, this is the match that I'm going to attend to. He's probably not going to be able to go to another European match for, I don't know, years. And the one match he goes to, absolutely betrayed by the Hotspurs. So hopefully I don't have some kind of experience like that. But I don't know. I think I would, if I go to a Bilbao game, it would have to be like a Copa del Rey match or something like that, because I feel like a La Liga Bilbao game is just like, we finish between 8 and 12 every year, and it's just not that exciting. But I don't know. I could absolutely get up for a La Liga match too.
I mean, you can't be picky. Like
I can't be picky. As I said, it's a convenience thing. But Yeah, I'm just
this
creating fantasies in my mind now, but continue.
This is actually something I'm really excited for, and like not like I'll be able to do all the time, but like living in New York,
Right.
especially like this, like we'll be there this summer, and then like God willing, Ariella gets an offer for the next like full-time position, and then we'll move there like full-time.
Right.
Living in New York, like flying to Seattle is as easy as flying to Europe, and it's the same price.
6-hour flight, baby.
And so that is like something I'm really looking forward to, is like having that accessibility. Obviously, I'm not going to do it all the time, but like if there's a time where it's like me and a friend want to take like you could, obviously it's expensive, but like you could feasibly take like a long weekend and go to Europe and like go to a game and come back.
Absolutely.
And it would cost you obviously like a couple $100, but like it's doable. And that to me is like thrilling.
Opening day, opening match weekend, Manchester United. First weekend you move, or the first summer you move to New York. Gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Dude, I wonder how hard it is to get tickets to a United game. Like,
dude,
it's gotta be pretty tough, right?
Going to a United game just sounds toxic, man. That sounds like, talk about an unsafe atmosphere.
Dude, it's the theater of dreams. What are you talking about?
We'll see. Hopefully Rashford's not on the team anymore, so he can't be. I don't know.
I hope Ten Hag is at the helmet by that time. This is something that kind of broke today. It's not official.
Huge news. And we'll cover that on Sunday. But
yeah, you'll have to wait for the premium content.
I just think of United fans as like properly ruthless. Like yeah, I don't know. To me, this may be like a false assumption, but to me, like Manchester and Liverpool fans specifically, like they're true like working folks, and like they really get up for those games. Like I feel those atmospheres are particularly more passionate than I'd say most London club games.
I feel like, I mean, I could be completely like losing the plot here, but I feel like especially Manchester United and honestly like probably Everton and like Liverpool as well are like traditionally like working class clubs. And then obviously today, like no one would say Manchester United is like a working class club, but no, I feel like that there is like kind of heritage that goes into that and influences the atmosphere and everything apart.
It's more so, definitely more so what I meant. I mean, it's a massive club, obviously.
The only like in like the only way I don't know any personally, but like see United fans is mainly like on Twitter. It's like mainly where I see footy fans in general just posting stuff, and like it is like the most delusional group of people like of all time. Like it's honestly pretty like that's one of the things I find most frustrating about being a United fan is like I don't like relate to like the things other United fans think and say.
Definitely a special breed of human, that United supporter living in Manchester, England. I think Spurs fans are a bit more sarcastic with themselves. Definitely a fair share of delusional Spurs fans, which is like the Twitter community that I'm more a part of. But everybody like a good Spurs fan knows that we should just like always be clowning ourselves until we actually see some change. So United fans have like this expectation for greatness still, and like are just in this like this period where they just can't really get out of the mud. So yeah, I mean, I think going to United match would be a fantastic experience. So I want to go. I hope you get to do that someday. Yeah, but
me too. Well, I actually, so that's my 3 important matches. I want to bring up a couple honorable mentions. These wouldn't ever make the cut, but they just are like generally fun soccer stories. One of which, like the core reason I am a United fan is when I was a kid, my dad had like a friend through work. His name was Jean Paul. And then additionally, one of our soccer coaches, like one of our rec soccer coaches, was named Bill Hansen. He used to be like a Mercer Island high school coach as well. And they had like a pretty good team. And Jean Paul and Bill were United fans. And so after like Sunday soccer, my dad would take my brother and I, and us five would like go to the pub, and you would like walk down the stairs into this like seedy pub, and they would have like this huge projector up, and they would like be playing the United game. And I couldn't tell you where it is. I think it's in Fremont somewhere. I actually have to ask my dad about it because I have very fond memories of that place. It's like everyone would be there like drinking a pint, like watching the game, and my brother and I would just like be eating beans and toast, like a very English breakfast.
Beans and toast.
And I didn't like really follow United from that point on, but I remember that distinctly as being like, oh, this team is like obviously cool. Like people are here watching them. Like
So
I've never seen anyone else do this. Like
definitely a formidable moment in your footy fandom, right?
yeah,
there.
and it was like a long time after that I started actually following them, but like that's like a fun little story about how I got into United. I also have to tell that as like a preface to people when I tell them I'm a United fan, because they're like, every time I tell someone I support Manchester United, they're like, oh, like you suck, really? Like,
well, it's funny. It's funny for me because I have like maybe 4 friends that are like properly Dutch, and like 2 good friends, you and one other kid, and he's also a Manchester United supporter, like big time United supporter. So I don't know, maybe it's Van Persie, maybe it's I don't know what it could be. Maybe it's Ten Hag.
It's the Van Nistelrooy, the poacher.
Yeah.
So that's like the OG where I started supporting them. A couple fun memories from like when I played soccer. I never played select soccer. Like my parents couldn't really pay for it like regularly for me and my brother, but then also like I said earlier, my brother and I were involved in like 3 or 4 different sports, and so making like a year-round commitment to soccer was like not really a thing for us. But we would play for school, and then we would play like rec during some other season. And I remember we won the rec championship like sometime in high school, like before our school season started. Me and my brother captained the side to a rec title.
Let's go.
Which was super fun. I loved playing rec soccer. There were actually like, Seattle's a big soccer city, and there were actually like a couple of teams were like really bad, obviously, but there were a couple teams that were like decently good. Like we would like compete with them a lot. God, I'm blanking on their last name. Do you remember like the brothers that like Tatum Dahl was dating one of them?
Oh, Tings.
The Tings. I played against the Tings in rec soccer, and I didn't know it. Until until later, and we would like josh around about our team sometimes. But that was super fun, like playing rec soccer. I in middle school, this is the last thing I'll say, but in middle school I was playing like JV soccer, like 6th grade or something, and it was like the championship game for JV, and we were all like pretty nervous. I had been out for like the last month because I like rolled my ankle really bad. That was like kind of common for me at the time, like
bad ankles.
Yeah, we were in practice, and I played like center back for like most of my life, and this person put in like a really hard driven low cross on the ground, and I was like stretching out my outside foot to get it, and like as I do that, the ball just like hits the bottom of my foot and like turns it, and then I just like land on like the side of my ankle super hard.
You're giving me the heebie-jeebies.
And so I was like on crutches for a while, and like I couldn't play in this game, but I was like eligible because I was on the team and I'd played all season and stuff. And so the game goes to penalty shootouts, and my coach is like, Paul, you got to suit up, like you got to take one. And I I step up off of not touching a ball in a month and slot my penalty home, like second in the lineup, and we win the penalty shootout. It's just absolute scenes. I'm like hobbling around the field, like
Darren Chapa.
It was so funny because like she was like, someone's got to take it. Like these people can't, or like they don't want to. I don't know. And she was just like, Paul, like, can you take one? I was like, yeah, I can take one. Like, do you want me to go get my stuff? It's in the car. And she's like, yeah.
That's
so, like,
amazing.
I hobble out to the car, get my stuff, put it on, walk up, slot a penalty home. I turned to the sixth grade me turned to the crowd and like flex on them.
That's your Greg Jennings broken leg, team on your back moment. I felt like that.
I
just love. I mean, nothing like a good comeback story.
Dude, it was. We're talking electric. That was like so sick. And
what was more electric, that or the 2018 World Cup final in Croatia?
Easily the penalty. It's not even.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Amazing.
I gotta think if I have any other little stories. I don't think so. Even if I did, they couldn't top what I already said. So that's probably my formative footy feature.
I love it. There you go. That is a beautiful journey that we have just gone down with Mr. Paul Van Zandt here on the Meat Pies podcast. Paul, thank you so much for sharing all of these awesome stories. I feel like all of those matches had so much more than just like the footy itself. You really had, those are like core memories for you, each and every one of them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, well, thank you for walking through it. And I don't know, that's what the game is meant to be. So like, yeah, the game is great, but what you get from it is not X's and O's, kid.
It's not just the X's and O's. Thank you so much for listening to this very special hat trick episode on the Meat Pies Pod. Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. Have a fantastic couple of days before we talk to you again on Monday. But until then, up the pies.
Up the pies, baby. Thanks.